The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week with your host, Tomasz Fonseca, and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business, from $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters at Real Estate Marketing, Ardor SEO.
Welcome to the Icons of Real Estate. I'm Tim Calloway. We have a very special guest for you, Lisa Bujulian. She is a well-established real estate broker with eXp in Austin, Texas. Keep Austin weird, right? Whose focus is real estate investing. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Tim. It's a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no worries. I'm real excited to hear your story. And, being a native Texan myself, I love hearing about the Texas market. Talk to a lot of folks out there still. And, even in good, bad, and different markets, whether it's Austin, Dallas, Houston, Corpus, you go all over the place. And there's always buyers in Texas, it seems. So let's get started. Let's get a little back history on you. How'd you start and how'd you get to where you are today?
Awesome. I'd love to share. So I got started 6 years ago in 2016, and I really wanted to focus on something different. And so I went more of the investor-based community route, and I really wanted to have a product that people came to me for. So my niche was really finding those hard to find off-market properties, and then finding that investor. Could have been a builder, could have been a buy and hold investor for rentals and rental portfolios, or could have been a fix and flip investor. But it was really a non-retail residential space and more of either a distressed asset or just a value add play.
Okay. And so walk me through a little bit about kind of the day-to-day. First and foremost, how do you find your properties? Or do you get a new client and they give you the parameters and then boom, you're out there, boots on the ground or fingers on the keys, so to speak, doing the search? Or is it vice versa? Sometimes you find the properties and you're like, hey, I've got, this stable of 200 investors. I'm going to lay it out to them and they grab it. Which way do you go on that?
Sure. All the above. So what I really leverage is reputation and relationships. That really does withstand your book of business, I would say, here in Austin. And so I'm very fortunate that I do have agents that pick up the phone and call me and say, hey, I think this is what you're looking for. I've done business with you in the past. And also, you put your niche out there for certain types of marketing materials, certain target demographics or areas. But mainly reputations and relationships do withstand. Everyone likes to do business with people they like, and it's that ease of the transaction. And so after a couple you have underneath your belt, it just kind of is like riding a bicycle where the relationships remain intact and the deals flow. Yeah,
nice. So I've got two questions on how you find something. I guess you mentioned, and when I say find something, I'm going to be talking about two different things. One's going to be property and one's going to be your actual investors. So let's talk about property. Once again, I'm a native Texan, love hearing about Texas. Tell me about the Austin market right now. What's your sphere of influence? What's your radius? Are you all the way down through around, San Antonio, or are you specifically staying there in Austin?
Sure. I love Central Austin. As far as, Georgetown, Round Rock, Cedar Park, right. Leander. As far south as Kyle, Buda, maybe some Dripping, Wimberley. But that's really my hub, and that's really where I like to farm. And then mainly Central Austin. But what people don't realize is there is a huge still need for it, no matter the market. I know that everyone has their opinion on the marketplace right now, but what they don't realize is in 2021, institutional buyers, large institutional buyers, primarily investors, made up 28% of Texas home sales. Wow. And that's almost double the national average, which is 13. So there's always going to be a need, a niche for that space here. And I don't see that going away anytime soon. Will things get harder to find? Sure. Will there have to be sort of a pivot and adjustment method when the market shifts? Sure. but there's still a huge niche for that. And typically that's the areas that I like to farm to look for.
Gotcha. When you say pivot, that can mean a million things. So I'm not trying to pin you down on anything. When you say pivot, does that mean maybe expanding the search database area, or is it type of property that you may actually be looking at?
Both, as well as criteria. So I have noticed some investors that only look at deals. Actually, perfect example. Some of my builders are even thinking in terms of flips now or rentals now, where they only wanted either vacant land or tear downs. They're getting more creative because as the market does shift and margins either tighten, we have a lot of leeway with. You have supply chain issues. We have a lot of different issues now where it comes in. The cost of materials have doubled. Your time frame has doubled. Permitting process is lengthier. There's just certain things that even some of my investor base that was only looking for a certain thing has broadened their horizons to other opportunities, just to make sure that the cash flow and the income is coming in.
Right. Okay. So tell me about, let's switch to the investor side now. What do you look for? I mean, there's a lot of different types of investors. I have this conversation quite a lot with guests, and listeners always want to know, and I'll get into why here in a second. But go ahead and tell me, what is your ideal investor? Are they accredited? Do they have to be accredited? Tell me who you like to pinpoint on that.
Sure. So for the local investor base here that has been investing for the past 10 years or more, they understand we're not great at cash flow. Austin is a great appreciation play.
Right.
I mean, on average, your average home is going to be around $550, and your cash flow or your rents on that is only $2,500. So to be able to cash flow appropriately, they're putting down 35 to 50% cash. Now that's a huge chunk of their money. Sure. And a lot of buyers here that understand that and understand the numbers perfectly. That would be someone I want to work with. But for an out-of-state buyer, when I run those numbers, it's kind of a turnoff for them until they understand the appreciation play. But when they understand, I think this year we're projected anywhere between 8 to 10%. So if they can get by with the numbers and sit on something for 10 plus years, that's really where their focus should be. So my ideal investor would be someone here that is already an investor that gets the numbers, or someone that is out of state that is okay with those numbers.
Got you. So what's that conversation like with someone from out of state? Me being a native Texan, you and I can sit and have conversations all day long about, the area, the appreciation of home values. Me being much older can tell you, where going back to the late 80s, where the market in Texas was and how it's appreciated and things going on. What is the conversation like now, say, the investor who might contact you, if you're fortunate and you've got, this pool of investors contacting you, say he's from New York, which, I talk to New York investors all the time, and they're like, I can't find anything. I need something with the meat on the bone. I can't get anything. And I say, oh, okay, talk to Lisa down in Austin, because I think she's exactly what you're looking for. How does that conversation go once you talk to them?
Sure. So I first like to see what their confidence level is in Austin. I have noticed time and time again, I let the new investor talk, and I want to hear kind of where their comfortability is, as well as where their mindset is. And if their mindset is, oh, I don't think I can afford Austin. I heard that, the market is X, Y, or Z, whatever their opinion is. And I can already hear their opinions on it. I'll be very honest with you. It's going to waste my time and theirs to try to sway them into a decision they're already telling me they don't really want. Right. When my conversations, let's say from an individual in New York, they would say, hey, I've heard some things. I know someone that lives there maybe, or I have someone that lives in Kyle or Butte, or et cetera. And just walk me through the numbers. I'm actually curious. And is your market doing okay? And is there still expansion and growth? These are all now ways, instead of the yes or no answers, I can educate them that, yes, Austin isn't going anywhere. Do we have seasonality? Sure. Do we have certain times with price decreases or higher days on market? Sure. But Apple just came out this month stating that they have a $279 million expansion on their North Campus. So is there expansion always happening? Absolutely. Is there always opportunity? Absolutely. besides Samsung and Taylor, and the articles that investors are reading, there's always going to be that need for development. So to me, it truly starts with their attitude on investing in Austin, and I kind of piggyback off of that.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. So I'm in Southeast Florida. I get a lot of migration from the Northeast, right? New York is big. That's why I always bring up New Yorkers. They're always coming down looking for property, and it's not just New York. It's New York, New Jersey. It's New England, and I do know in Texas now there has been a large migration from the West Coast, California. So you just mentioned, okay, Apple's expanding the campus, and it's not just Samsung. It's not just Dell, it's not just whomever. There's a lot of folks just migrating for whatever reason. I'm not talking politics or anything like that. Just a lot of folks migrating. Texas is a great place. There's a lot of meat on the bone for properties.
Sure.
Tell me about, is that where a lot of your investors come from now? I mean, are you getting a lot of West Coast investors? And be honest,
Sure.
do they just have handfuls of cash because they just sold their house for $2 million and they found an average $550,000 or $700,000 home?
Sure, and I'll be honest with you, it depends. So let's go back to COVID. And when COVID happened, the mindset of the shift to a lot of influx of West Coast buyers coming to Texas was, well, okay, if we have to work from home, let's find our forever home.
Yeah.
And so we saw a huge, huge influx in sale of luxury, because now the mindset was, well, then I might as well love where I live, and I can't blame them. So instead of, you're going to get more through money out here than you would on the West Coast. And that's a no-brainer. So
Sure.
We saw a lot of individuals really, truly finding a place that they love and investing and spending the money here, which is great. But I will say a lot of other things make our market incredibly popular. And investors do look at these kinds of things, which are high density in millennials. We have a huge high density with millennials. We have a high density with renters. We
Right.
have high income and education. The percentage of individuals that live here with a bachelor's degree or higher is significant. We have lots of growth and movement, fast home appreciation. So there's a lot of reasons and pools why people had Austin on the map and said,
Right.
I think now is the time to move.
People still moving to the hill country a lot?
You know what? It's a really desirable area, especially for Airbnbs, or glamping is now a really big thing.
Right.
So if you look at little tents and yurts to glamp in, you'd be shocked at the nightly rate and how far out they're booked.
Wow. So that's
Yeah.
a big market. Now, is that something you recommend to investors, or is that like just off the books for you?
I think it's incredibly unique. Now, if you go the Airbnb space,
Mhm.
unless you have a property manager, it's not really passive income. You're
Right.
still answering the emails. You're still worrying about the cleaning. You're still worrying about the materials and making sure that the check-in is seamless and the checkout is seamless. So unless you have someone managing that, to me, it's not really passive, but it is a great way and a great money maker.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I think Texas is a great place for that. Even though there's been a large migration, your population has grown significantly. It's such a big, and the way the design of Texas overall, not to get into semantics of Texas, but down the corridor, the I-35 corridor, most listeners probably know or don't know what that is, but
Sure.
it's very, I don't like to say clustered, but so much it's clustered down the I-35 corridor where I think most people are moving to.
You're absolutely correct. And as well as wedding venues. So Dripping
Yeah.
Spring, people don't know, is one of the #1 capitals to get married in, or cities to get married in, excuse me. And so they have an influx of rentals, Airbnbs, as well as venues out there. And it is truly beautiful.
Wow, that's fantastic. So we've talked about your past, how you got here. We've talked about kind of today, kind of where things are. And so let's talk about the future. That's always fun, right? Let's put our prognostication hats on. Where are you going to be in 5 years? What do you foresee in the next 5 years? Are we just going to retread the same thing? Is Lisa going to grow this way? I mean, now is more to the personal side of what your ultimate plan is. But what's the future look like in the next 5 years in the Austin market and for yourself?
I love the question and I respect it. Thank you, Tim. I see myself expanding my book of business in a lot of ways. my goal is to stay relevant and to be a resource. I always want to be seen as a resource more than a salesperson. And so my goal is to educate investors near and far of what our market looks like. Do I have high hopes and aspirations for our market? Absolutely. Do I see it slowing down dramatically anytime soon? I don't. I think there's seasonality that will always happen in every market. But are we one of the most desirable places to be? Absolutely. I do. And I don't see that changing. And I don't see, for my book of business, I would truly hope that the referrals and the words of mouth of all the individuals that I have had the pleasure of doing business with in my shorter amount of time, in 6 years, I've done almost 275 transactions. And so it's been a ton of influx, and I really do respect the good referrals and all about word of mouth and doing good business here in Austin. And I look forward to that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So let's go this route a little bit as well. And this is something I have to ask. Looking for investors. I've been looking for investors in one shape or form, somehow, some way, for more years than I want to say, but let's just say 30 years. And it's a challenge. And I could get into a diatribe story about how it's changed from 1992 until today, so on and so forth. So that's actually, 30 years. What are you doing today, or what do you recommend for people today to help find investors if they're looking for investors in their area?
Okay, I'm going to give away a little secret sauce,
Oh,
but
wait a minute. Let me get my pen. I love secret sauce. Go ahead.
it's being incredibly knowledgeable and starting off with a great initial call. So how I really got started, not knowing anyone and hit the ground running, is I picked up the phone and I said, I know who you are and I want you to know who I am. And regardless where that conversation went, 9 times out of 10, people wanted to meet with me and sit down with me to say, okay, so what can you offer me? And then I go into either the properties that I have available, the properties that I find, the relationships that I have. But it was truly picking up the phone and saying, I know who you are and I want you to know who I am.
Nice.
And I really enjoyed sitting down with them, and they educated me on their business. It wasn't me talking about myself. I wanted to sit down and listen to their business. And I've had some amazing, amazing stories of people that started out literally moving to Austin, not knowing what they're doing, living out of a hotel, and then building an entirely incredible remodeling business and being very successful at it, and just truly believing in themselves. And I still do our business with those individuals today, but it's really unique stories and opportunities that you wouldn't get otherwise. Don't ask them questions that are on their website. That's infuriating. Take the time to educate yourself, know who you're meeting with, and know where they're building or know where they're flipping and know where they're investing, and ask them, what's their next move? How can you help? Are you still looking in these areas? Have you, pivoted your business for other sectors in the market? But truly educate yourself and know that, and start off with a great initial phone call.
Yeah, that's I think that's great advice. That really breaks it down to that granular personal level, as opposed to maybe more the cold, callous, hey, I'm just a business and you're just a customer. And
yes, we all get those phone calls still, those telemarketers, and you can tell the second they say hello, that it's no one that knows you, and it's incredibly infuriating. So add that level of personal touch and really go the extra mile to do your education and homework before you call someone, especially a big institutional buyer. You really get one shot with them, so know exactly the types of information and who you're speaking with ahead of time.
Great advice. Great advice. So Lisa, if someone wants to get in touch with you, our listeners say, hey, I want to be in Austin. She's saying exactly what I want to hear. How do they get in touch with you? And then I'll let you have the last word. Any bits and pieces that you want to discuss, or anything you just want to say to our listeners. Go ahead.
Sure, I really appreciate that. Thank you, Tim. So first of all, do you want me to just give my phone number right
That's
now?
fine.
Or
Yeah, how your best means of contacting you.
Okay, so my phone number is 559-448-7799, all doubles. And it's first.lastname@gmail.com. Lisa, Lisa, dot B as in boy, UJULIAN @gmail.com. That's how you can find me. And last tidbits or words of advice.
You've given us a lot to chew on, so don't feel bad if you if you've exhausted that.
No, I think really what stood out to me is one thing I love to do is travel, and I love to see other markets for market research. But also, what I did find in my travels, I know investors all over the world, and invest where you love, and invest either where you want to live or love to visit. I have a really dear friend that was an investor in Colombia, and he thought, you know what, this is a beautiful place. He loved Medellin. He actually ended up living there, and he's building out there now. But I would say you need to have the appeal of either loving where you live or investing or going to visit intermittently throughout the year, but it needs to really make sense to you. I think that's how you truly enjoy it along the way and along for the ride.
That's great advice. I mean, love where you invest, love being there, and I think, then you wake up every day with a passion for it as opposed to just dollars and cents, right?
Absolutely.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been great, discussing these topics with you. Great talking to you. Definitely look forward to doing it again. Have a great holiday weekend, and thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Tim. It was an absolute pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.